Welcome to the MrBoxingguru podcast. Again, it is me, Sal, MrBoxingguru. Of course, that music you heard there is from Los Anaya. Again, that's LOS and LOSANAYA. Let me say leer. But check them out on YouTube, Spotify. Follow them on Instagram too. Los Anaya Music, great music, good OG music. Again, thank you to everyone that's listening. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this, whether it's on your drive to work, whether it's while your wife is telling you to wash the dishes, but you really don't want to pay attention. Again, thank you so much for everything. Speaking of wives, I was actually, I'm not going to lie, guys, I was watching the Kardashians right now. No, before you get disinterested, let me just tell you guys my little story. I was watching the Kardashians with my wife, and I mean, I don't know if it's just me, but everything somehow relates to boxing in a way. The Kardashian, and reality TV for that matter, seems to be, again, people think it's you somehow become a fly in the wall in these Instagram personalities or whatever you want to call them that are the reality TV stars, and you get to, peek into these folks' lives and you get to be, again, that fly in the wall of these great conversations when they talk like this and todo se desmadre. But the fact of the matter is that all this crap is scripted. There's always, if you guys notice on all these reality shows, there's always a beginning, a plot, and then a storyline to where they finally get to the conclusion. And at the end of the day, it's a happy ending. So what I'm trying to say is that these reality TV shows, everything is scripted. In a way, sort of like boxing. What I told you guys last week, in the beginning, was that, when these kids start fighting, especially at the smaller, way smaller scale, the winner is always that kid that sells tickets. Then, if there's enough skill later on the line, and if the skill matches, again, continues to match that ticket sale, he eventually graduates into a promotional company like Top Rank, Golden Boy, again, just to give an example, PPC and whatnot, to somehow avoid the bootleg, matchmakers that are out there that somehow are there just to take advantage of the kid, whether they like you or not, whether they put you in a good fight or they don't. They help you develop or they underdevelop you by putting you in one-round fights or just push you to the max where you end up, losing interest because you somehow can't win a fight. Or again, you're being overmatched. But again, let's say they do make it to that level, and they somehow again get to the promoter. They help them design or find a 15 or 20 carefully manufactured wins where they are slowly pushing them. And the competition, of course, continues to improve, and little by little, they develop themselves into title contenders. At some point, when you reach the top of the division, when the job by the matchmakers, the trainers, the fighter has peaked, it's time to challenge. It's time for a legit challenge. It's time to get rid of the script. It's time to get rid of the so-called reality show. You guys reached the pinnacle of the sport. You guys reached the very top. And that's how a normal career should develop. And at that point, it's time to challenge other fighters that have gone through the same thing, that have gone through the development process, that have fought the 0 and 8 guys, that have fought the 1 and 1 guys, the 2 and 5s, and progressively, fought that one other local rival, and you somehow manage to beat them, and you're progressing. But again, at some point, when you reach the top of I'm not going to say the sport, but it's the top of that weight division, you have to challenge yourself to see what else do you have compared to those same other people, that same A-side, El Güerito, the same other fighter that was carefully matched and carefully made into a solid contender, solid champion. Prime example for this is this weekend's fight with Lomachenko versus Crolla, or as I like to call it, Lamborghini versus Corolla. The fight was designed just like any reality TV show to make Loma look spectacular. And I'm talking about spectacular. Now, you guys knew that. You guys are smart boxing fans. It was a fight that was a total mismatch. Again, just like racing, a Lamborghini versus Corolla. But there comes a time where we have to demand progression from the fighters. I mean, they have to demand it for themselves. I mean, the Marquezes of the world demanded it for themselves. The Fernando Vargases demanded it for themselves. The De La Hoyas, the Durans, the Hopkins. Yes, at one point they failed, but they fought the fights to test how great they can be. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Loma is one of those special talents that come every 10 years, if so. But at the same time, I think Loma deserves better. Loma deserves formidable opponents. Loma does not deserve to give his prime or to hurt his knuckle, to hurt his elbow, to hurt his shoulder versus fighters like Crolla. Again, no disrespect to Crolla. Again, he's a solid fighter. And not just because he's ranked, because we know all these sanctioning bodies are really full of shit. But you knew the outcome of the fight. You saw the writing in the world. So Lomachenko deserves formidable opponents, deserves a Mikey Garcia, deserves a Tank Davises, and deserves to not so distant future the Teofimos of the world. Again, I'm all up for developing a fighter. But when you have a blue chip fighter like Lomachenko, a two-time Olympic, and again, Olympic gold medalist like Loma is, he deserves better. He's not getting any younger. His body's starting to hurt. He needs those fights. He's a special individual. He needs to challenge himself to other great fighters, again, like the Garcias. The demand is there. He has to demand it. He needs to ask for these type of fights. Again, you could give me all that bullshit about, oh, this guy belongs here and Tom won't do it because Tom says it takes too much time. Tom is about to fucking die, let's be honest. Tom is an old guy, and and he's a gem. He's been a gem to boxing. He's great to listen to interviews, but come on, man, let's not eat the shit. He's great. Top Rank is amazing at what they do. In my opinion, it's one of the best companies, if not the best, at matchmaking, at developing great talent. They have great, amazing eye for talent. Again, prime example is Teofimo. He's one of those fighters that I'm sure didn't cost him a lot, because again, he wasn't I guess you could say a real Olympian, because he didn't fight for the U.S. But at the end of the day, he wasn't Olympian, but he came under the radar, and he came and again, all splash, all greatness in that kid. He's a special kid. They know how to find these blue chippers. And again, Loma is no excuse. He's an amazing fighter, but he really needs to fight the right fight. It's time to stop the bullshit. This what happened to that kid. What about if this Crolla kid could have really gotten hurt because he's being overmatched? And Loma's going to get bored eventually. Sort of like Zurdo, because how much developing does Zurdo really need? I mean, he developed as a champion. He was a champion at 168. Now he Zurdo managed a way to somehow bore us in a knockout, because I think everything that Zurdo does, again, is right, but it's somehow just dreadful in a way, because he's 40 plus fights. He's still somehow being developed. He fought this, whatever opponent. And don't say this guy fought this other guy, because it's going to be a joke. But Zurdo needs to step up too. I mean, he's been a champion. Honestly, maybe he fought, one name as a champ? Now he's moving up to 175. I think is a great idea. Again, I'm not against developing fighters. I encourage it. As much shit as I like giving to Ryan Garcia on social media, I like what they're doing with the kid. Golden Boy knows what they have. They're giving him the right fights at the right time based on his level of talent. Same thing goes for Teofimo. Same thing goes for Virgil Ortiz. Fights at the right time. It's a development process. You know, I'm not going to sit here and call them a cherry picker. It's development. But at some point, come on, man. You fought Salido on your second fight. Let's move forward. Again, same goes for Zurdo. I think he could do great, but Jesus Christ, get it off a second gear already. But, yeah. And another thing, and I'm sorry, I got caught on stupid, but a kid that really needs help, in my opinion, is Jaime Munguia, including help from the judges, because that's exactly what he got this weekend when he fought in Monterrey, Mexico. Look, man, this kid, we need to start calling him a champ because that's not what he is. If there was ever a way to manufacture your way into a belt or kind of slide into the DMs of belts, was Jaime Munguia. Jaime Munguia was a guy that fought the world kid in Saddam Ali. There was a guy that did not belong at 154 that somehow beat an old Cotto that was a career 140-pounder. Old and undersized Cotto. Again, he was all beat up. And somehow Cotto got that belt from fighting the likes of the Kami guy. So that belt really was never really taken from a legitimate champion. So let's stop. Oh, he has a belt. He says no. Let's call it what he is. He's a guy that stumbled his way into a belt. He was a guy that somehow made a name by not fighting Golovkin. And again, I see nothing wrong with the kid. I see a lot of raw talent. I think he can be fixed. That Saddam Ali that came into that, I'm sorry, that Jaime Munguia that came into the Saddam Ali fight, he looks poised. He was a banger. He was ready to go. He was, moving up and down. And there, jab, body, body, jab. And he looked spectacular. Again, very undersized Saddam Ali. But the fact of the matter is that they need to move him up. Forget the belt. I really hope they start. It looks like his whole training camp is based on making weight instead of based on strategy, because you can see those fucking punches coming a mile away. I mean, fuck. I mean, who can't see them? I think Brandon Rios will be able to even move his head, from a Jaime Munguia punch. So it's time to, develop him right. Let him grow into 160 pounds. Start fighting him versus lesser opposition at 160 pounds and getting him ready for that Canelo fight. For him to fight the Canelos of the world, the Jacobs. I mean, he's at the zone 160. It's exactly where it's at in the zone. Let's move forward and fix this kid, and let's get rid of Alcazar. Honestly, I think Alcazar was a great guy, but not everybody. He always tries to develop these kids into jumping like Oscar De La Hoya and having a little bounce like Oscar did, and with that great jab behind him. But it somehow doesn't work out. Oscar was a freak of nature. He was a great fighter, but these guys, it's not that they're not great because they're good fighters, but they're not Oscar great. So Alcazar needs to go, man. I'm sorry, man. He needs to. I would love to see a guy like Jaime Munguia with a Manny Robles, a Robert Garcia, a guy that's gonna have him sit down on his punches and dig deep and work that body. Look, he kind of reminds me of his body wise of Diego Corrales, where they were tall and lengthy, but they had like little alligator hands where they weren't tall, so they don't necessarily use that reach advantage. They're tall, but they need to fight on the inside, and that's okay. It worked for Diego Corrales. It worked for guys like Margarito, and it has to work for guys like Munguia. He has to be a banger, a smart banger, which is okay, but they need to work on his style and not try to give him a new one that really doesn't belong to him. As far as that's it. The crazy thing about this weekend, which again it had a lot of good fights, a lot of fights in general. Shows, I guess you could say, because again, Staples, it seemed like a lot of people had fun. I'm not sure if it was because a bunch of tickets were comps, because I even seen people in suites and whatnot, but the fact of the matter is that it looked like a lot of fun. It looked like Staples Center was cracking. Good, that's good. Same thing with Monterrey. It seemed like a lot of fun. I didn't think Mexico had those type of venues, but they do. and it looked like a lot of fun. Sucks that little Diego, got a no contest because of a headbutt, but hey, life happens. But the fight of the weekend, and I don't know if it's sad to say. No, it shouldn't be sad. In a way, it's great because the fight of the weekend, or the most meaningful, at least on paper, evenly matched fight, I guess you could say, was the woman fight. Yeah, woman fight. I think I kept toggling between that and the Jaime Munguia fight, but I kind of got stuck a bit more on the Hammer versus Shields, and it looks like the Shield beat the Hammer. It was a great look. I think with Clarissa Shields, people don't know how to separate her attitude, because a lot of people do say that she has a shitty attitude. But the fact of the matter is that performance was spectacular. I think she did great. She beat the brakes out of Lady Hammer, and she deserves all the accolades of the world. She's the best woman fighter that there is out there, at least right now. And it looks like she wants to go for greatness, and that's great. I think she wants to fight Breakers now at 154ish or 60 or 150 something, I guess. And that's good. And if she decides to fight at higher weights, that's even better. That's something that a lot of the guys are doing. That's something and she's it's obvious she's a special fighter. She's a great fighter. And again, the stuff that she's doing is something that you almost want from these guy fighters. Again, I know she's annoying, but I think now, as a recognized champion, and especially the way she handled Lady Hammer, she deserves all the accolades in the world. I really hope she gets good TV time. It seemed like a weight was lifted off her shoulders. Now she can smile. Now she doesn't have to be an asshole. And I hope she's not, man. Good for her. Again, she's not my cup of tea. Maybe now she will. She definitely seems like a nicer person. So, with that said, let's switch gears a bit and let's talk about this weekend's fights. This weekend we have, again, it's 2 cards that are super stacked. But let's talk about Amir Khan versus Terence Crawford on pay-per-view. Again, on pay-per-view, Terence Crawford versus Amir King Khan. Man, Top Rank has such a beautiful platform on ESPN, but Top Rank chooses to play stupid and try to charge folks for a fight that honestly should be just on ESPN. Again, I'm not mad at the fight. I get it. It's a good fight. It's not a great fight, but it's a good fight. It's a great card. But it's a fight, again, that's like a reality show. It's predetermined. We all know what's going to happen. We all know Crawford's going to win. We all know Crawford's going to get his highlight knockout. Just like Canelo got it. Just like Danny Garcia got it. Just like all these other guys that have knocked out Amir Khan cold. I really don't get it. I mean, I'm really trying to understand the reasoning for this. And again, this is not a knock on the fighters, because the card itself, again, I think from top to bottom is great. You got guys like Pitufo fighting. I mean, Teofimo's fighting. I mean, it's one of those fights that it's worth to go, but not to really pay on pay-per-view. It's not worthy, man. Again, having that great platform that is ESPN, and even ESPN Plus to a certain extent, to put this, I think it's a disservice to the fighters. And I'm gonna watch it because I'm gonna stream it, because there's ways, especially nowadays. Why put it on pay-per-view? Pay-per-view, again, is a walking dead. It's dead. Nobody really watches it. Look, we're at a time where you have applications that at least other entities are trying. You got the zones, the ESPN Pluses, the YouTube in the fight on the next day. And that's not including the illegal streams that have been, around for many years. Over-the-air streaming, Fire Sticks. Again, the great war media that works just perfect. And again, this is not a shameless plug. This is just, it is what it is. Before, it was so hard to watch a stream, or even before that, the black boxes. Now, everything is readily available on your computer. You could actually watch this on your phone. It's time for these promoters to start adapting. Yes, I think there's ESPN Plus and DAZN is a great way, at least to try to, hold you in and somehow make it a bit more easier than streaming. But you get these Geek Squad boxing fans that don't need that. They haven't needed this for years. These are the ones that you should attract. These are the fans that you need. I'm a DAZN subscriber. I'm a ESPN Plus subscriber. I get it. I like it. But don't try to fucking trick me into buying something else that I shouldn't. This is not a pay-per-view fight. And again, it's a disservice to Bud Crawford, which again deserves everything and more. I think these are one of the reasons that, or part of the gimmicks that kind of, let fighters go away from Top Rank, because again, they're great at developing a fighter, but not so much at keeping them once they made them. And that's part of the reason why these guys go away. I really hope these promoters understand that and adapt. I would hate for them to get HBO'd or even worse, blockbustered out of the business. It's they have to keep up with the games, and I really hope they do. The other card is actually Danny Garcia fights Adrian Granados. I'm sorry. A solid kid. I mean, Adrian Granados is a solid kid. That's probably the best journeyman that PBC has. And I hate calling him that because I really think he's a great kid. But the fact of the matter is that he's a journeyman. I mean, most Mexican or Hispanic last names, that's exactly what they are in PBC. But again, let's not get into that crap. I mean, PBC deserves all the accolades of the world. This card, even if it's in the wrong coast, it's a great card. I mean, you got kids like Carlos Valderas, Perro Angulo, Figueroa, Andy Ruiz is actually fighting on it. There's a bunch of other good names that are actually on it. I mean, even the world famous Ricky Lopez, the flag waver for Danny Garcia, is actually fighting, so that's pretty legit. It's a stacked card, and it's even more stacked than that Walking Dead that is the pay-per-view event from Top Rank. All right, guys. It's on to my favorite portion of each podcast. This portion is where I usually go on Instagram. Sometimes it's a few hours, sometimes maybe it's a day, sometimes it's 15 minutes. This is exactly what it was, about 15 minutes before I started recording the podcast. And ask me what the fuck you want to ask me. Ask me what you want to ask me, and I'll try to answer it to the best of my ability. So, hold on, let me grab my phone and record and see these pictures, these questions. I'm sorry. First question comes from El Jera, and he asked, and actually, I think like 3-4 people are asking the same question. So, okay, we're gonna give credit to El Jera. He has, should Gigi get a pass for his role fights or not? I saw a lot of people maybe not making fun of it, but kind of commenting on the rankings on where this Rolls guys is. I know he's an undefeated fighter, but very unknown and maybe not very ranked. But if in my opinion, if Canelo deserved a Rocky Fielding fight, I know they did it up as, oh, what's he going to do with a guy that's 168 pounds? Shit, go to the body. I mean, it's to be expected. But if a guy like Canelo deserved the Rocky Fielding, a guy like GGG definitely deserves a guy like Rolls. We're talking about a guy that not only was he beaten by what he thinks was the judges, by Canelo, by the Nevada Athletic Commission, but he just been through a lot. So why not give him a break? Again, you guys don't know what Rolls has. I personally don't know. I just heard the fight today or last night. I'm not sure, but I heard it got made, and I want to see him. I want to see a showcase fight for Triple G. He deserves it. Again, you got to think about Canelo. Then Canelo gets canceled. The Canelo fight gets canceled. And he ends up fighting Vladimir Derozan. Then he gets Canelo again, and he gets gypped. This time he actually gets a loss. The first fight, arguably he won. The second fight, he didn't. In my opinion, he didn't. And again, it was arguably a draw, but he's one of those fighters that feels like he didn't lose the fights and they took them away from him. That's tough. That's got to be tough. And yeah, he deserves a break. He deserves a smile on his face. And look, like I said, if Canelo deserved the fielding, Golovkin deserves a role. So that's that, El Jera. Chingon, cabrón. Stop buying shirts from Vegas Fight Shop. My man Damien, he asks my thoughts on Pitufo versus Shakur. You know what? This is a very interesting fight because this is a fight where if things don't go the way that, again, are quote-unquote expected to go, Shakur could really fuck up here, man, because, look, the expectation is for Shakur to beat Pitufo. Pitufo is no slouch. We know the things that Pitufo could do. I don't think Pitufo is or should be used as an opponent because I think these type of fights are the fights that might hurt a blue chipper like Shakur Stevenson. Look, I think Shakur should win. I just hope a guy like Pitufo, strong mentally and physically, does not hurt the development of Shakur because that's exactly what he's doing. He's developing. I get it, he's an Olympian, but he's still developing into the pros. Again, I might be wrong, but this, and I think Damien said it himself, I think he had mentioned it, that this is the best fight on the card. I believe so. I think it's a great card on the undercard of Amir Khan. Amir Khan versus Bud Crawford. So on to the next question. Boxing Bros, shout out to Boxing Bros, ask, oh God, another Santa Cruz question. Santa Cruz versus Tank Davis, thoughts? I don't want to think about it. Yeah, and I'll tell you why. Why would I think about something? Because Santa Cruz always finds himself in a position where he needs a stay busy fight. He stays out of the ring so much that he needs a in between fight for a bigger fight, but that bigger fight never comes because he never accepts it. So why put yourself in the position where you're even fantasy boxing playing with Santa Cruz? Santa Cruz is one of the, and I like him because he's just a super nice guy and he's a great fighter once he's inside the ring. But to get him to fight quality opposition has been very tough. He's fought one guy that was on his level, and that was the what is it, Scottish, Irish, whatever it was. And he fought Maris, and again, Maris had already been through so many wars and so many knockouts and whatnot. But he's found one quality opponent that I could really say, this is the man that and he redeemed himself. He lost and he redeemed himself. He won. Then he had two really, really, really close fights with Maris. But that's it. But all they do is these make believe fights. The fight with the kid that beat JoJo, Gary Russell Jr., that's a fight that should be made. Why isn't it made? Why are we talking about Tank Davis? Tank Davis is a monster in his own. And I'm tired of the Mexicans being used as an opponent for PBC fighters. Don't even think about that fight. Fight fighters that are on your level and no need to go up. Just fight the right fights. That's my thoughts on that. So I don't really want to think about it because I'm just going to get pissed off like I'm getting pissed off right now. But shout out to Boxing Bros. They got a good Instagram account. Good for them. Alonzo21G asks, what will Munguia do next? Yeah, I talked about that earlier. Munguia needs to Munguia, man. Munguia needs to go to 160 and practice. That's all you're asking. I'm not asking for tough fights. I'm not asking him to main event anything. He shouldn't be pressured into main eventing anything. He should be developing and being put on the Canelo undercards, and developing into something where we all think could be great. I think he has the potential to be a great fighter. He's very young. He's a baby. He still smells like Similac. Great little fighter. But he needs to develop. He needs to move on. Again, he needs to change trainers. If he needs to go back to Tijuana, so be it. But he needs to stop being a fighter that he isn't. And that's a little bouncy, jabby fighter. He's not in him. He needs to be, I'm not saying a brawler, but he needs to be a pressure fighter. And let's see, who else is next? Artelum. Artelum always has a good question. My man Ruben is I love this guy. So Artelum asks, how do I score a fight? What keeps me, he's asking me, how do I score a fight? So he's pretty much saying, how do you score a fight? What keeps me on the edge of my seat? And at what time do I lose interest in a fight? Great 3-part question. I love it. Okay. How do I score a fight? The best way, in my opinion, to score a fight, especially from the couch, is who would I rather be at that round? What fighter would I rather be? Would I rather be the guy? Am I boxing? Again, I don't mind boxing. Am I being the brawler? But who got the better of the other guy? That's how you should score it. Not on feints, not on jabs. Who would you rather be? Because sometimes there's punches that a fighter, I'm sorry, that throws very few punches, but they're very effective. Instead of the guy that's just moving around and somehow trying to counter someone. Again, that's not a guy that's making a fight. That's a guy that's avoiding a fight and trying to win on points. If a guy is moving forward, pressuring, and getting the better of him, that's the guy I'm going to score. And again, but more importantly, it's who would I rather be in that round. What keeps me in the edge of my seat? When I don't know who's going to be the winner. And again, it doesn't have to be the most interesting fight, but I know it's a fight where a lot of times people ask me, who's going to win? Shit, I don't know. That's what keeps me in the edge. Again, it doesn't have to be necessarily the most interesting, but it has to be the most challenging to each fighter. That's what keeps me in the edge of my seat. And when do I lose interest in a fight? Maybe in about the third round of each and every one of Zurdo's fights. I mean, again, I don't mean to be a dick, but he's the títere of the higher divisions. He's the I don't even know what to call him. He's the Ishe Smith of the Mexican community. He's the Austin Trout of Top Rank. It's just very 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 monotone of a fighter. I just don't get it. I can't get behind it. He does the same shit every fight, and it's just to a point where, I mean, honestly, right now, Ishe Smith used to be my beer line fighter, then became Austin Trout. Now Zurdo Ramirez. I'm sorry, but it is what it is. Best thing about Zurdo Ramirez is his hat. Let's see. Next question. Maverick asks, now that Miller is out, who can replace Big Baby? And yeah, from the reports that I heard earlier, on the Joshua fight, Baby Miller, after talking all that shit about saying that Joshua was on roids or performance enhancement drugs, looks like the chubby kid got caught with something. I don't know what it is, so I can't really assume. But as far as replacement goes, I think that the best possible opponent is Luis Ortiz, the Cuban, the 60-year-old Cuban. I think Luis Ortiz has been inactive enough. It's the heavyweight division, so it's not like they have to come in at weight. I think that's the best option, and I think based on Ortiz's age or lack of knowing what Ortiz's age is, based on his face, he doesn't look like he has enough time left in boxing to be picky. So I think he's the Cuban. The Cuban is the best possible opponent for him, and it'll be a great measuring stick for him and Joshua and Wilder. See how they do. You can compare them even more. And let's see. I think I still got time for one more. Okay, Vilify asks, how much do you weigh? And Vilify, I answered that because when he said, how much do you weigh? My response on Instagram, I shouldn't have responded there, but my response was to how much do I weigh? I asked him with or without his mother on top. But again, maybe I should have left it for here. But Vilify, to answer your question, is 360 pounds. Yes, it's getting harder on the knee, so maybe we should work out. I think we got about the same belt size. So that's it for this week, guys. Thank you again so much for listening. Again, remember, you could listen on YouTube, Spotify, Spreaker, iTunes, and wherever podcasts are listened to. Again, don't forget to rate, don't forget to comment, and again, thank you so much for listening, guys.